good morning and Jai Shri Krishna to one and all. I, Bijal Asher, on behalf of Team Drshtikon, would like to welcome you all to the 20th webinar of Drshtikon Talks. As you are well aware, at Drshtikon we have leading Bharatiya personalities who come and share their views and ideas with us. We would like you all to get maximum value addition from these talks, and hence I would request you all to keep your mic on mute and turn off your videos so that there is no distraction while the speaker is talking. Any questions you may have can be typed into the chat box and they will be answered towards the end of the webinar. In case there are any queries left unanswered, we assure you that we shall respond to those by email after the webinar. If you have any further feedback or suggestion, you can convey them to us by email at drshtikon.talks@gmail.com. Our speaker for today is Ms. Jesal Asher. Ankita Bhatia will be introducing our speaker for today. Over to you, Ankita.
Thank you. Jai Shri Krishna and a very good morning to everyone. It is said that to break the glass ceiling, it is important to be motivated and be upwardly mobile towards the ceiling. Sheryl Sandberg, the Chief Operating Officer of Facebook, has very eloquently explained this concept in two simple words: lean in. It's a call to develop in oneself a strong will to lead and excel rather than to stay average and a follower. I'm very honored to introduce our speaker today, Mrs. Jesal Asher-Rajda, who has demonstrated this and has proved that resilience and improvisation wears down opposition and challenges. She is one of the eminent women who has broken the stereotypes and pushed frontiers of women's leadership, paving the path for other women and girls to follow in her footsteps and become future leaders. Jesal has her maternal roots in Nizamabad and is the granddaughter of the prestigious late Shri Kanjibhai Bhimani. She is an alumna of the London School of Economics and is graduated with honors in BSc Management. She is also a qualified associate chartered accountant. Jesal was crowned as the youngest partner heading up the enterprise risk management practice for KPMG America. In that role, Jesal gained experience in designing, assessing, and implementing risk management programs and also led GRC engagements for large global organizations across varied industries. She was responsible for creating the methodology, training, establishing a team, and serving many of the Fortune 100 clients in varied sectors. Currently, she is the executive director of Ansari Group of Companies, which is involved in many activities ranging from trading, construction, steel, fabrication, and digital printing, headquartered in Oman with operations in UAE, ASA, Doha, and India. In her current role, she has also focused on diversification and geographical expansion for the company and operational restructuring. Outside of the Ansari Group, she also serves as a board member of the Indian Charity Wing, the American International School of Muscat, and various other boards and committees. As can be inferred, her journey has been a very inspirational one, but I'm sure it must also have been one with challenges and difficulties. So today, we at Drshtikon warmly invite Jesal to speak about her journey and understand that how she has turned barriers into opportunities to stand out. In this session, she will also touch on the business climate in the Middle East. Over to you, Prashant Bhai.
Hello, Jai Shri Krishna, and good morning to all of you. Thank you for joining us on a Sunday morning, and thank you, Ankita, for introducing Jesal Rajda in such a fantastic manner. Welcome to Drshtikon Talks, Jesal. It's a pleasure to have you here. Jesal, I think your video is off.
Jai Shri Krishna, and thank you for the opportunity. I'm humbled.
So we're really happy that you are here, especially with your roots from Nizamabad, and which is of course very close to Hyderabad, where Drshtikon is also being posted from. So we are really happy that in some ways there is a connection here. And we would like to know about your journey, that hailing from Nizamabad and we studied in Oman, to New York, to London, and back to Oman. How your journey has been till now?
Sure. So would you like me to start with just a summary of my journey? Is that how you'd like me to go?
Maybe that would be good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jesal, everybody, good morning, and it's nice to at least get all the names, and there's so many that I recognize, and it's nice to see them. As for me, Ankita's done a wonderful job, but honestly, yeah, no, I mean, anyway, you'll hear my journey and you can make your own call. But I spent my first, so I was born in Nizamabad, but very quickly came to Oman because my dad had established a business and has had this business for 45 years. So I spent my first 18 years growing up in Oman in Indian schools, American British Academy, British schools. Like I changed as my father earned a little bit more. He put us into different schools, and there it was. So at the age of 18, I then left Oman to go to London. I studied there, got my degree, and then my aspiration was to become a chartered accountant. So I joined PricewaterhouseCoopers and became that chartered accountant and worked there. What ended up being 6 years. But in the 6 years, I took a sabbatical for about 6 months, and I traveled, I backpacked solo around the world-ish. I started in China. I did a little bit of China, a little bit of Hong Kong, Bali, and then really spent most of my time in Australia and New Zealand. I came back and decided I wanted to work in New York. And so I started applying to New York, and yeah, I got 2 offers. I took the one for KPMG in advisory. And what I thought was going to be 1 or 2 years, you fast forward, became 11 years with a husband, 3 children, and a partner in the enterprise risk management section of KPMG New York. And then you fast forward that, and 7 plus years ago, I moved back to Oman to join the family business. And
So
first
excellent.
of all, I suppose I'm a mother. I should mention that, a proud mother of 3 children.
Yeah, so handling risk management in KPMG, but your life has been full of risks in terms of shifting from Oman to London, to KPMG, to backpacking around the world and coming back. So you really done a very good job of risk management, I guess.
About that. Yeah, I think I just went with my heart. I think that was my motto. I don't think I realized I was managing risks more so than I just had a desire to do, and I did.
Yeah, so as Ayn Rand says, the question is not who's going to let me, the question is who's going to stop me.
Correct.
So from the London School of Economics to PricewaterhouseCoopers, and then to KPMG, and then to backpacking. So what actually led you to leave the PricewaterhouseCoopers career and go backpack? You know, it's very difficult to take such a step early in your career. How could you manage that?
So I have to say, in the UK, taking a sabbatical wasn't looked down upon in any shape or form. But for me, it wasn't about that. It was my heart desire to travel. And I thought, well, I've earned money and I've saved money to be able to go solo on this trip. And so why not? And I thought, you know, Australia and New Zealand are so far and they require so much time to actually visit and get to know the place, that when am I going to be able to do that? And so why not do it when I want to? Of course, lo and behold, I'm now married into a family where my sister-in-law actually lives in Australia. So I do have an opportunity to go there and be with them as well. But I didn't know that at the time.
Let's hear for some of your backpacking adventures, because before we get on to your career and your work with KPMG, how was it traveling across the world alone, and probably a lot of learnings as well during your trip?
Yeah, so it was actually fantastic. No regrets whatsoever. I have to start by saying my parents were very brave. I mean, I didn't ask them. I just paid for the ticket myself, and I just told them I'm doing this. And I went with a backpack that my mother was horrified with. You know, she thought, how am I going to ever survive this? But I don't know, this was in the time where there was no cell phones, emails had just started. So my communication with my parents was through letters, and I would take a lot of pictures along the way and send them, like I would post them back to Oman, and that's how they learned about my journey. And so it was not immediate. Think about now where your child, I mean, my child goes to the mall and I want to know that she has reached or he has reached, and I want that message back, and they didn't. So I thank them every day for having given me this chance without any guilt. So yeah, I bought the ticket. I said, I'm going to start in Oman. I haven't seen my parents for a long period of time, so I'm going to spend a little bit of time with them and then start. And off I went, and it was beautiful. I met so many people along the way. I would land in the place and then look up youth hostels that were open. I had my own budget. And so when I had a little bit extra and I was tired of sharing rooms with people, I would just get a single room in the youth hostel just to treat myself. I learned so much about not people's cultures, yes, but also the country and the fact that you can do so much on your own as well. And why did I go by myself? I mean, for me, it was simple. I had paid for it and I wanted to do it my way. I didn't want to compromise if you're with somebody, you kind of have to compromise. Do they want to do this? Do they not want to do this? Maybe we have to stay 2 extra days in a particular place. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do it on my own. And look, on reflection, it was because I ended my backpacking trip in New York before I came back to London. That was what made me want to go to New York. I love the city. It was bustling. It was, the sun was shining every day, something that doesn't happen in London very often. It was, so that was my drive. I also realized that London just wasn't for me. I needed this trip to reflect back and say something about that place isn't working for me. Something about that industry that I'm in, being a female, being an Indian, amongst a pretty white male dominated financial sector, I probably have very little chances of succeeding. So all those reflections I was able to make on this trip.
So when you reached New York, probably you realized that's a city you wanted to be in. So I surmise that must be the city you love the most amongst all the places that you visited. So yes. Other than the climatic conditions that you so mentioned, is something specific about the business climate which attracted you to New York?
So I felt, look, even when I worked in London, a lot of the headquarters of the companies that I was working with were in the US. And we were always told, well, the decision is coming from the headquarters, so we just have to do. And I was tired of hearing that. I wanted to go where the decisions were made. And that was kind of the desire. I didn't really, in my backpacking, I didn't really get a sense of the business environment other than the city just doesn't sleep at night or ever. 24/7, everything is available. It's bustling, it's so cosmopolitan. And I wanted to be there. It was simple.
Excellent. And rising up to become a partner in the KPMG's New York office, you must have faced a lot of hindrances in terms of not as such being having American citizenship, and having come from a different country, I may sound a bit sexist, but being a female, going up the ranks so fast, you must have encountered a lot of hurdles. How did you overcome those?
To be honest, my biggest hurdle actually to get to the US was getting a job, because I was not an American citizen. At the time that I was applying, it was just post 9/11, so the job market was down. PwC gave me an offer to move within audit so I could just continue my career track. And KPMG gave me an offer, a step down, but to be in advisory. Well, I decided audit wasn't for me. It was okay to take the step down. And there I was. I entered the office, and I just realized that America is so different from the UK. There were very few hurdles. The biggest hurdle, like I said, was getting that job. The second hurdle was trying to find a place to stay, because as a non-American citizen, I had no credit cards, obviously, in America. Therefore, I had no credit history. And so when you go to look for apartments, they always look at your history. Well, I don't have history. I don't even have a bank account. And it was this sort of chicken and egg situation. You need a bank account to develop credit history. Well, but to start having a bank account, you need to be a citizen. And so that the settling in initial period outside of the office was hard, but once you got in, it wasn't so hard. You worked, and I think this is the motto of America: you work hard and you get rewarded for it. And so I got given promotions, and I was like, wait a minute, you didn't want me to beg for it, you didn't want me to ask for it, I just worked and you gave it to me. Of course, until you reach partnership, and then it's a matter of how many spots they have, what your unique selling points are, and then it becomes a little bit more sort of difficult. But up until then, not at all. It was the best decision I've made, and I'm so glad. I've met so many milestones in that city, and yeah, it's close to my heart.
I guess New York gave you a lot of things in KPMG, as in terms of meeting your future husband, making a family in New York. A lot of things. New York should have a special place in your life. Would you like to recount some of the specific experiences at KPMG?
Yeah, sure. So I think Ankita had touched upon those as well. So for me, the best times were when I was at the forefront of developing methodology. So when I got to New York, Sarbanes-Oxley had just come into play. And there wasn't a set methodology. We're all trying to navigate the storm and help our clients. And myself and my boss were made in charge of not only implementing it for clients, but developing a standardized methodology for KPMG. So again, that was such a unique experience because it was never done. We were starting from scratch and putting in best practices. And I learned there that I actually do like training as well. As much as I like working for clients, I also like training. And then right after the Sarbanes-Oxley part was over, the next methodology that my boss and I were asked to develop was the enterprise risk management methodology. For banks, it's very easy. They think about managing credit risk, managing market risk. It's like, it's in their DNA. But for non-financial sectors, managing risk was something that wasn't well thought through. And it was, when they thought about risks, it was just the top people sitting in a room and saying, these are our risks, and not really talking to the people below where really the risks, they would know about the day-to-day risks. And so we were tasked with putting a methodology in place that, institutions like Moody's, like Memorial Sloan Kettering, like Tiffany, and so a lot of fun clients implemented. And it was great to see the end result and talk to these leaders and say, wow, I didn't even know that this risk existed for my organization. So I learned that for sure. Another thing I learned at KPMG was the importance of mentors. So when I joined a couple of years in, one of my bosses said to me, I'm going to apply for your green card. And I was like, I don't even think I'm going to be here. Like, I don't know if you need to do that. And he said, listen, we're just going to do it. And I'm so grateful he did, because at the end I was able to get my citizenship unknown. Like, I didn't know I was going to be there for that long. My other boss, who I developed these methodologies with, became a leader in the firm and was instrumental in guiding me in becoming a partner. In fact, he's a dear friend now. And you can think about Americans coming to the Middle East, they typically don't like it, they're afraid. They think that's where wars happen and bad things happen to them. And when I got married, this was the same boss that really, for him, Middle East wasn't where he would come. He flew down for 2 days to attend the wedding, or my wedding in Oman, and raised a toast as well. So the importance of mentors, I suppose I learned that you need to have them all along in your life. And I also learned that work-life balance, there is no such thing. You can't balance it all. It's called work-life integration. There are times where work needs you a lot and you give it all. And there are times where your life needs a lot. And so you give it all. And it's just integrating the two. But if I try and make every day balance, it's not going to be. And I'm going to be unhappy.
Excellent. The way you touched upon mentors. So do you still have a mentor in your life? At what stage do you think people will need mentors in their careers?
I think you should have mentors in your life all your life. I still have mentors. So another individual that I attribute a lot of my sort of life to or the successes to is a gentleman by the name of Kevin Roberts. He was the CEO and global chairman of Saatchi & Saatchi. And I got introduced to him because of my mama. And we just kept in touch and he guided me. And he was very instrumental when I was deciding whether the move back was the right move. And he said to me, Jesal, you have to go with heart. Go where your heart is and you will be happy. And he was the one who said to me, work-life balance is out the window. It's about work-life integration. Until date, he does a lot of governance workshops and family business workshops. Until date, he guides me. So I have mentors all along the way. Just now, the CEO of KPMG, she was a female, Lynn Doughty, was a mentor to me and still is a mentor to me, and I still stay in touch with her. So I think the idea that you stop is wrong. I think you continue, but along the way, I hope I'm becoming a mentor to so many more people. So as you develop mentors, don't forget that you should also mentor people to share your experience.
Excellent. I guess that's so important to build a successful hierarchy in business, or the family business, or professional business. So having worked in New York and having worked in London, what's the kind of difference you saw in the business climate in both the places?
Oh my gosh, so different, so different. Look, at the end of the day, public company, yeah, that's all the same. But the culture in America is very open. It is a complete land of opportunity. I think sexism, racism is at its minimum there compared to the UK, at least in the industry that I was in, which was more the financial services sector. Things may have changed, may have evolved now, but certainly if I was still in the UK, I don't think I would have reached partnership that easily, or if even.
So in terms of work culture, did you find London to be a bit close, or maybe not close, a bit formal and stiff in the work culture, with US showing better flexibility in the work culture? Is that how we can read this?
No, I think Americans work harder for sure. I mean, in the UK, this could be a plus and a minus, whichever way that you want to look at it. When you're when you take a holiday, you can go 1 month at a time and nobody will bother you. They don't expect anything from you. In America, holidays are limited and you will be on call 24/7. So you can take it whichever way you like. They work, in my opinion, harder. Maybe people say they work too hard, but in my opinion, harder than the UK. I wouldn't say that it's more flexible, it's just more open. It enables hardworking people to succeed. It's irrespective of your race and your gender. You work hard, you succeed.
As you said, the land of opportunities.
It is.
So while your career was flourishing in KPMG in New York, and then you decided to move back to Oman to take over, or to take a role in the Ansari Group. So that was also a big risk that you took. Probably you must have thought it through, that leaving a professional career, getting into family business would entail a lot of mental change, behavioral change in terms of your work. How did you manage that, or what made you move like this?
So I wish I had thought through all of it from a risk angle. I didn't. Once again, both for my husband and I, our careers were flourishing in New York. We were quite settled. Our children were doing well. But every time that I saw my parents or my in-laws come and visit us, the aging was stark. It was in my face. And I looked back and I thought, well, here are my parents who've given me every opportunity to do whatever I want. It's time that I give back. And so it was a decision made by heart. I was blessed that I have a super supportive, and he's kind of my biggest cheerleader husband, who said, yes, let's do it. And there was no other thought put in other than we need to go for heart. So there we were, we landed. Now there was a couple of shocks because we hadn't done this risk assessment. Here I am teaching, organizations how to do risk assessments, and I didn't do it on myself. So we land in a country that's a monarchy, where freedom of speech doesn't exist. And my husband has only ever lived in democratic countries, India and the US. And so that's a bit of a shock in adjusting to your life. The IT infrastructure, the medical facilities are backwards. School options are limited. So you think, have we made a mistake for our children? Have we moved backwards when we're supposed to be moving forward? In the same way, my father is now my boss. I've never had to have difficult discussions or professional discussions, but I also have needs, I have desires, and so learning to have those discussions with somebody that you've never had to do that with. Again, my husband was very clear when we moved back that he was not, had no desire to join the family business at all. And so he was going to start his own business. Oman is one of the most difficult places to start your own business. And within a year of us moving back, the economy had tanked. So again, that was another shock that we were, dealing with. Again, I also didn't realize that a lot of the work that happens here is through network and speaking Arabic. Well, I don't speak Arabic and my network doesn't exist because I went to expat schools and all these expats have gone. They've all gone and the locals have stayed and the children of the friends of my father have taken on the business. I have no network. So it's a shock. But again, through all of this, the heart won, time healed. And we adjusted and we sort of were able to achieve other, sort of other dreams that I had. And so I was able to spend, and I still am able to spend a third of my time on not-for-profit organizations and giving back. And that's very fulfilling. I'm able to enable my father to take a step back and get more involved in social work, which he enjoys the most, and I'm able to be a phone call away or a car ride away from where my parents are. I'm able to have my in-laws come and visit us, and be here within 2.5 hours of a plane ride and be here however long that they like. So yeah, there's so many positives at the end of it.
Credit to you and your adaptability that you could move out from New York and settle in Oman. So this was about how you could adjust to the city, but having moved into your family business, having worked with your father, there must have been some adjustments you needed to make moving out of a professional culture into a family-owned business. So we've had sessions earlier in Drshtikon about people speaking on family business and how it's been difficult, or maybe what are the different principles which basically dictate the management of a family business. So did you see that difference between a professional career and then getting into family business in terms of managing or in terms of working to a full potential?
Absolutely. I mean, it is very different. And again, it's to do with heart. A lot of the decisions in a family business are made through emotion and taking care of the desires of the elderly in the family. But what it did teach me is, look, I might have succeeded and done all that I did in New York, and I might have great ideas, but I need to really understand the culture. And that was key for me, learning the culture that my father has established in Al-Ansari. And I wasn't here to rock that boat. I needed to learn what it is that he follows, what are the values that he follows. And it's not so structural, it's not written in a book. You kind of just have to learn from scenario to scenario. And so a lot of it we've put into a governance sort of arrangement, however much that I can get written down, but a lot of it comes from here. It's less about making that money and it's more about being happy. And keeping your employees happy. And it's not a hire fire culture. If somebody doesn't perform, you give them a second chance, you give them because they're family. And you carry them along. And so I've learned a lot of working through heart and not just through mind.
So getting into a family business, when you discuss with your father and he being your boss, are you able to, it must be very difficult to keep that distinction between talking to him as a boss and talking to him as a father. How do you balance that?
I think it's easy now, but I think when I first came, it was all very humble jumble. It's like, he's my dad and I'm having a professional discussion and I didn't really know how to articulate it. So I had to learn along the way that when I'm sitting across the table from him, having a professional discussion, I have to put my professional hat on. And at that point, I am not his daughter. I am Jesal Asher-Rajda, looking for certain decisions from him. And when I am talking to him about his health and about other things and how he would like things done in the company, that is as a daughter trying to learn. So I had to adjust. And it's just reminding yourself before I sit across that table, am I going in as a daughter or am I going in as a professional?
So Edward de Bono, founder of lateral thinking, he had this book says his 6 thinking hats, where you have a different hat for a different kind of situation or for a different kind of ability. I guess at least you must be working with 2 or 3 different hats in terms of family and career.
Yes.
So having got back to Oman, moving out from a very open culture of New York and coming into Oman with its restrictions, must have taken you some time to adapt to the country, to the working culture. What's the kind of difference you see? I mean, if you were doing the same thing in New York, would it have been different as to how you follow your processes or do things in Oman? Your business decisions, your work?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, look, I think if it's a public company, you have shareholders that are down your neck, right? And so a lot of it's driven by that bottom line. Whether you're bringing that bottom line, you're increasing the top line, and it's all about that. In a family business that's not public, it's not about that. If you're bringing the bottom line at the cost of hurting a family or at the cost of offending somebody in the family, then is it worth it? It becomes the question. There is no rule book. There is no rule book. You might set yourself targets. You might set yourself goals. At the end of the day, different things happen. So I'll give you an example. COVID hit. Now, most organizations, if they're public at that stage, they've got to make some decisions because their bottom line is going to be heavily impacted. And so they have to make decisions of letting go of their staff, to cut salaries, to do all of that. And in our case, my father had made it extremely clear. I mean, first of all, we led with kindness. We took care of people in terms of their mental health. We took care of people because they were away from their families, and we knew that that is mental stress. And so we were on call with them every week as management, kind of talking to them, morale boosters, doing all of that. And we were blessed. And my father made it very clear that we are not going to cut salaries and we're not going to let go of people, especially in the month of Ramadan, which is where COVID had kind of hit pretty hard. And because we're not run by just the bottom line, we were able to make those decisions, and we were able to lead with kindness and with humanity. And my dad has always said, at the end of the day, we've made money in the past, and if we don't, it's okay, but people's well-being is of utmost importance.
Excellent. I think that's a very nice way to go. And it's a very good way to reward your loyal staff or the people who have been with you for so many years as well, I think. But probably that's where the Gulf or the Middle East or India actually scores about the United States, I guess. Business with the heart, I guess. That would be the motto.
Yes.
I'll be just taking a few questions from the chat box as well, because people have asked. So we have a question from Ishani Kapadia, who wants to know what are the opportunities for freshers in places like USA and Canada, postgraduates for US and Canada at this moment.
Yeah, it's hard. I'm not going to lie. It's not easy for a fresher to find a job in the current situations in the US. I don't know much about Canada, but I know of people that have had more success in Canada, which seems to be more open to allowing people in. What tends to happen, I think, in the US is you finish your college, you get 1 year kind of extension visa, and you say, you know what, I'm going to go for it and I'm going to do it all with the hope that you're going to get that H-1B visa. And those don't come easy, especially if you're working for a very small organization, unless you go to like a Goldman Sachs or KPMG and places like that that have a bulk, a large bulk of H-1B visas. Anything small, you're only going to be let down. So you be prepared that it's probably a 1 year stint and I may have to go home. And if you're in that mental mind frame, then that's okay. It's not easy. I think when I also moved, it wasn't easy, but you have to remember when I moved to the US, I had already had 6 years of experience. So I was going in with experience and not competing with those millions and thousands and hundreds and thousands of freshers that are coming out of college. Another thing to remember is if you're working for like a big international organization anywhere in the world, and then you want to move to the US, you can move on an L1 visa, which is much easier to get. It's a transfer between organizations, and those visas come easier than H1B visas.
We have a question from Ajay Jasrani, and he would like to know that is it possible that with the excellent infrastructure available and the quality of life in the UAE and Oman, that it can become the world's back-end office?
Oh, good question. Look, I think UAE is so different from the rest of the Middle East. Can it become the back-end office? It possibly can, but where I struggle is living expenses are high. It's not a cheap place. So I don't know if it would be able to compete with countries like India or China or Vietnam or Philippines for that matter. So to become a back-end office, but having said that, can it become your safety office where it's like a safe haven from India, where rules might change and you might want a little bit more sanity? Possibly it can be, but it's not cheap, it's expensive.
So I think Middle East has thrived over the last so many years on oil. And slowly now the world is talking of parallel energy, different sources of energy, or moving away from crude. So how is the Middle East adapting to this, especially Oman and then the other countries? And what do you see there? How do you see them in the next 20 to 30 years?
So I think I can speak about Oman. I mean, UAE, Dubai is unique. It had accepted that it has no oil, even though UAE as a nation has, but Dubai as a state had said, I don't have oil, I've got to find different ways of doing things. And they really invested heavy on logistics, like making their Jebel Ali port and other ports very strong, and their tourism very strong. Oman, on the other hand, I think was in a little bit of slower path. And so I think it was almost the hope that oil will always remain and it will work and it's all going to be fine. I think reality has hit that it's not all going to be fine. And COVID made it even more clear that, look, even when oil was fine, there was just no demand because the borders were shut, just oil wasn't used, factories had to close down and things like that. And so I think the reality has hit them now. And so I suspect there's a new Middle East coming into play in the next 10 to 15 years, where whether it's tourism, whether it's opening up to be that in between India and Africa and really leveraging that will all boom, but it hasn't as yet.
And I guess Ansari Group is already on the path to develop parallel businesses and a lot of other businesses which kind of insures you against the oil demand.
Yeah, so well, I think, look, we're not in oil and gas, but in Oman, and I can speak about Oman better than other parts of GCC or the Middle East. In Oman, the projects came from the government. The country isn't that old. It was His Majesty Sultan Qaboos that brought the country to all its modernization. And so it's about 45, 47-ish years old. And so it was all government projects. The government's money came from oil. And so the way we diversified is we got into different lines of business, but we were still government dependent because projects came from there. Our factory, Kimoha in Dubai, now that is not government dependent. That was more our dealing with FMCG needs and printing labels and boarding passes and baggage tags and things like that. That was completely different. So we've diversified in different industries, but the country demands oil and gas, yes, it might disappear, but what is the impact to us? Well, government projects have declined. And so now we have to look for, public-private partnership projects, industrial projects. Oman has to open up to other industries to settle in the country.
So how do you find the present business environment in the Gulf, specifically Oman and maybe even Dubai, since you have a presence there in Dubai? Like one, with oil coming down, the kind of acceptance to outsiders coming in, or the foreign companies coming in and setting up base there, and the kind of is it encouraging to newer companies setting up base and flourishing on their soil? What is the environment presently?
So I think presently we're all dealing with COVID, and that's added a different angle to all of this. And even us as a group, our entire motto is to sustain. Grow it's sort of a new way of looking at our own business. It's to de-risk, refocus, deal with customers that give us better credit terms. Even if we work with the government, see how committed they're going to be to make that payment back to us. And so I think the world is in that position. So I don't know if people are looking to expand that rapidly. I think people are just trying to survive and sort of stay put. A lot of competition is going away because so many are losing their businesses, sadly, and that is an opportunity for some. And I think the country on its own is just grappling. This is not the time to come and establish per se in different countries where border closures happen on a dime. You don't know the culture. There might be an opportunity, but you've got to be a little bit careful if you want to start in this current COVID environment. And Dubai was always open. Dubai, you can get there pretty quickly. It still is. It still allows you to travel. The borders haven't shut down for very long, and it's very open, but it's expensive.
Yeah, I guess presently we are in a changing world with the COVID ruling the roost, and probably we need to wait for some time to see how things pan out. So meanwhile, coming back to the family business part, we have a question from Divesh Palicha. You were saying about mentoring. Can you guide us? What is the public mentoring that you are engaged in, and how do you handle that?
Sure. So for me, mentoring is, individuals reaching out to say whether they're in public companies or like companies like KPMG, and I have a couple that always reach out and say, how do I navigate this? I want to eventually become a director. I want to become a partner. What are some of the things that I can do, that I should do? There's always mentoring in terms of, well, in college, I'm trying to do these courses. Can you guide me? Am I making the right decision? I want to move to New York. Can you guide me? In the same way, as a board member on the American School, it's a not-for-profit organization again, and the mentoring is more, using my skill set of enterprise risk management. I help them establish a risk assessment plan and methodology, and they're moving forward with that. I'm part of a mentoring program for local Omani entrepreneurs, and so they're just starting their business. They don't understand finance, and so I take that role and I guide them, and they give them the basics of what a profit and loss is, what a balance sheet is, how to read the numbers, how to realign their strategy, and so mentoring. It's not that I just make myself available, I suppose, and it comes from having your doors open at all stages. And it can vary. Mentoring can be on a career front, mentoring can be on a personal front, it can be on raising children, on making decisions for their children, could be anything.
Excellent. And please also let us know about the charity institutions that you are a part of, and how you are taking them ahead.
Yeah. So I'm on the American School is one, and I just do it because my children go there, but I'm also, I think I love education at heart, and so I learn a lot from it. Another one is the Indian charity wing that helps the blue collar workers. So a lot of these Indian workers that have left their homes and come here don't always get the right to medical treatment or right legal system, and they need help navigating it, and they have nowhere to go. And those cases touch my heart and do make me tear up on a regular basis, because I can't believe that people are so brutal, or can be so brutal to humans. And so that's one of them. The other one is the Oman Indian Friendship Association. I'm on the board of that as well. That organization is to bring more cultural friendship and relationship between the two nations. Now, of course, we are in a COVID world. The idea is to travel between the two countries and have female and male entrepreneurs learn about each other's culture, because we're so close in the way we operate, and India has such a fantastic friendship with Oman as well. Another one is the Young Presidents Organization. I'm on the board of that organization as well. And that, as much as it enables me to network, it's also given me a chance to give back to the community. I designed their learning program, all their education that was needed in the year. I help them recruit members. I organize kind of engagement events. And that's been a learning in itself. And so I enjoy the give back is part of my life. I would like to ensure that, whether it's through myself and my children, that we spend 1/3 of our time, whether it's time and money put together, in giving back. And so I'll give you an example, even for my children. And I hope this remains with them, but we don't do large celebrations for birthdays. We have all agreed that we're blessed and we have what we need, and really we don't need anything more. And so why don't we use this opportunity to say, well, I'm going to support a charitable cause. I'm blessed that my mother-in-law is an awesome social worker who gets involved in 100 million, and I don't even know how she does it all, even at this age. So she guides my children in terms of which institutions or what causes they want, how they can go about donating the gift money that they would get from their grandparents or from their aunts and uncles to a cause. So it's pretty important to us as a family that the give back continues.
Excellent. I guess the first education starts at home, whether it's technical, whether it's how to live life, or any kind of lessons which I learned first started home. Any good practices of Oman and the Ansari Group which you would like to share with us, which people in India or people in New York can try and imbibe to make their organization or work better? Something specific that you've seen to the place or the group.
To be in the, is it specific to the Middle East? Sorry, you got cut off a little bit.
I said any good business practices that you've seen in Oman and in Ansari Group which you would like to share, so that people can try and imbibe in the other parts of the world.
I think really having faith in your people. I really don't believe that people are lazy. I don't believe that people are here just to take advantage of working for you. I think people genuinely have dreams and goals, and it's up to us as leaders to take out from them what their goals and dreams are. And if they're aligned to our growth, we can all prosper and grow. If somebody is not performing, there'll be one or two that just are awkward, but I don't believe all are. And so if they aren't putting their best in, maybe we're not doing as good of a job as leaders to get that best from them. I think that's pretty important. I think leading from heart is what I think keeps our employees with us. We empower them, we let them go, we give them the space to grow, and we enable them to make decisions, knowing full well that we stand right beside them if things go wrong. So those philosophies exist in family-run organizations, I think.
Excellent. In fact, we had a speaker earlier on the forum who was speaking of management in COVID times. We had come out with this term called sensitive frugality. That's a way to handle the stuff with so many wage cuts or job cuts happening. Maintaining your stuff in the manner. So I guess what you're saying kind of goes with this. And also, just again, I would like to know, since you have been in so many countries, taken up various roles, followed your heart at different times. Any advice you may have for young women and career women who are starting out afresh?
Yeah. I think my advice to you, or I guess I have it in twofold. So if you are a parent, please let your children dream. If they've got a desire to go somewhere to experience things, have faith and let them be, and be there to guide them. And should they fall, be there for them. Don't push them into your dreams. They have their own. And then I think if you are that child, a girl, boy, it doesn't really matter. As you can see, it makes no difference whatsoever. Think, if you know you want to join a family business and you know that there are some gaps in the business, go and get the skills of where the gaps exist. But for sure, go out and experience elsewhere before coming back. When you do come back, don't be afraid to have those difficult discussions, because they may be difficult, but it's better not to brush it under the carpet. It's better to let the carpet be stable and not this high, because you've brushed things under the carpet. You'll build a better organization with better governance. So always be open. And girl or boy, I really don't think it makes a difference. And these Bhatia girls take your curry sambaria recipes and teach the world. I think we have a lot to offer, and I think we can do it.
Thank you so much, Jesal. It's been wonderful hearing your views. It was wonderful hearing your Drshtikon or point of view, and we are really happy to have someone who's, as the title suggested, broken the stereotypes and done it all. And I would also like to take this opportunity to thank Mahendra Bhai Bhimani for introducing us to Jesal Ben and helping us get you on this forum to share your views with everyone. Thank you so much, Jesal Ben, for coming on board and sharing your views with all of us.
Thank you for the opportunity. Stay safe, everybody, and Jai Shri Krishna.
Meanwhile, for all those who have joined, thank you so much for joining us today. Our next session will be on the 2nd of May, where we will have Dr. Hemant Morparia, cartoonist, photographer, Dr. Quizzer, and Funny Uncle, as he's more popularly known as amongst the younger crowd. We'll have him on 2nd of May with us. I hope all of you are receiving our mails from Drshtikon. In case you aren't, please just check your spam folder if they're going there and mark it differently, so that our updates keep coming to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Jai Shri Krishna.
Thank you.